Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Deal, a podcast where we go deeper than the numbers and discuss the tips and tricks that lead to success in life and business. My name is Michael Wagman, and I've been able to raise millions of dollars while traveling around the world full time. Today on the show, my guest is Guy Salani. Guy is actually one of the earliest mentors of mine and a man who has more businesses than you can count and seems to just hit that success button over and over and over and over again. So in today's episode, there's just going to be knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb dropped about what it takes to exit a business. And I hope you absorb everything that you can and how to think a little bit different and achieve success. Let's get right into the show. Hey, welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you here. How you doing?
All is well, Mr. Wagman. Thank you for the time, buddy.
Good. Now, you and I have been buddies for probably like 4 or 5 years now. It's been quite a while. We met at a conference a long time ago and things just kind of work out the way they work out. But for our guests who don't know anything about you, why don't you give a quick introduction to yourself and what you have going on right now?
For sure. So Guy here, appreciate you guys tuning in. Coming off of a fresh, small home improvement business exit, tripled a company in 18 months, rolled up the property into it, and then exited just under 4 times multiple. In the middle of taking down some waterfront property that I'm seeing a big divergence between waterfront properties older than 10 years versus the more elite new construction homes versus being 2 miles inland. And doing a good amount of consulting, teaching my sales process to home improvement companies, along with rolling up some other small home improvement businesses, primarily focusing around exterior work like roofing, siding, windows, painting, gutters, things like that.
I heard real estate, I heard home improvement, and I heard consulting. You've got a lot of things going on, not to mention the other things that I know about, like the cars and the watches and all the other things you do, right? So we could take this in a lot of directions. But first, I would like to get back a little bit to the beginning. So you started in the roofing world, right? Can you walk us through kind of how you got to where you are today?
Oh, absolutely. So let's go back 23 years now. I started my career as a loan officer for a small mortgage brokerage, quickly became a mortgage broker and a real estate broker all by the time I was 23, and built companies under both those licenses. By 2009, 2010, I had began a shift away from mortgages, kept my real estate brokerage, and started a construction company. And it was a general contractor. Well, took on a great partner. That partnership lasted a long time, and it lasted through 5 different construction companies. We built a union drywall company, a home elevations company after Sandy, a custom cabinetry and furniture business, a commercial roofing business, and it all culminated with finding the identity or the industry of home improvement sales, which we built a tri-state, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, in-home sales residential re-roofing company, and took it to about $12 million sales in just under 4 years. And that's an industry and a business that I exited about 4 years ago now, which brought me down to South Florida and into a new way of life and definitely a different career.
So many evolutions in what you've gone through. As somebody who exited multiple businesses, and really, I speak to a lot of people in the world of real estate, right? That's primarily our listenership, primarily a lot of people who know me as the real estate guy. But you're coming at this from the world of the business side and particularly attached to real estate, so home services, but building businesses and exiting businesses, right? So what can you tell our audience about what is involved with starting and scaling a home services business and making sure that you have a large clientele?
Fair enough. So there's different avenues. In my opinion, there's different avenues, which ways to go about home improvement services, right? I took the lens of home improvement sales rather than coming at it from a trade and being a tradesman and building up a service department. That was absolutely last on my list. I didn't have that skill set. My skill set was telling a great story, work ethic. So in the beginning, it was developing a sales process that was transferable, relatable, trainable, perfectible for other people rather than just hiring random people that say they're good at sales and seeing how they do with my lead. So I sought out the best education that I could afford to learn what home improvement sales really meant, how to get the best appointments, how to close at the highest rate, how to train salespeople, who to hire. I went through this in a very painful 2-year manner of what don't I know, because I'd never been in that world before. I think not knowing or being coachable really helped us propel to a high gross number in a quick time frame.
So you've told me this story before, but you actually went out and saw pretty much the best of the best as far as coaching is concerned, right? Can you tell us how you found that person, what that impact was like on your career?
Absolutely. So I was in my early 30s, about 32 years old, and my supply house rep at, I think it was ABC Supply back then, or Allied Supply, I forget, came to us and said, you guys are doing so many things well, but so many things you're missing. And he's like, there's somebody coming to town, and to town, he meant 8 hours away, that I really think you should meet. He takes a few people under his wing and shows them what home improvement sales and generating that revenue that you really want to really can be. This person, Rodney Webb, you couldn't find him online, couldn't find anything about him. He was holding a conference by Owens Corning. And the first half an hour of the conference, I think he threw 2 people out because they were discussing how they hire, train, and maintain salespeople. And these 2 contractors were just so ruthless, so unethical that Rodney literally asked them to leave, and they did. So that was my first, I guess, taste of home improvement sales. It was pretty abrupt. And Rodney and I, fortunately, got along really well. I appreciated everything that he'd been through and where he'd come from and what he built. He took us under his wing for a bit, and we hired a trainer from Rodney's corporation and changed our world almost instantly. Right education, we were doing, I don't know, maybe $100,000 of gross sales a month. In the first month that Rodney's trainer, John, came to our office, and I coupled that trainer with, I would say, 57 conversations with Rodney in the first 30 days, we doubled our gross revenue that month, and we never looked back. We went from a measly, $1 million a year or roofing company just starting to, we put up over $2.5–3 million that next year.
Wow.
And I was no longer in the field selling my own by myself. I was, training salespeople and raising sales managers and setting up a lead setting department and all of the other parts and pieces that I just didn't know were a part of home improvement sales. I had marketing down. I could sell myself. We had good subcontractors, but there was so much missing that I just didn't understand was perfected out there by someone else. And so we stayed with Rodney as long as I had the company. And Rodney became a dear friend, and I continued learning from him. And it was an amazing relationship. And yeah, I've implemented that system into multiple businesses now.
So how long did you end up with that particular business, and what did you exit at? How did that go for you?
That was not by far my most successful exit, but it was definitely the one that has always felt the best. And I'll explain that because it's a fun story. Started that business with a childhood friend that we literally, when we were 6 years old, stayed friends. He went down a very different path than I did after college, or during college and after college. And we linked back up again as he decided to move back to South Jersey. And when we were both in our late 20s, early 30s. So that company, we took it from South Jersey to a tri-state area. We opened a branch down in Florida. And I exited that business about 4 years ago. I think I was with it about 8 years. And I exited that business in a very unique fashion. I did not exit at what our buyout multiple was. I exited in a very unique way where I took my salary for the last 3 years and I went out and obtained funding of what that payment rate would have come out to for a loan amount. And I literally transitioned myself out with a loan against the company to pay me off. But I kept the company's rate monthly payment at what it would have been for me to stay on. And I left a lot on the table there, and I don't regret a minute of it. It felt great to be able to do that. And having other businesses running and consulting on fire during that time, I still look back and smile about that a lot.
So that was, would you say, the first in a series of getting in, getting out? I mean, everything that I know about you is like, you like the high velocity of business sales, right? Of moving money around pretty quick. How many exits have you done today, and how have they improved since that one?
Well, I believe we just finished number 4, and the last one was the quickest, under 18 months of true ownership, tripled gross, way more than tripled net, and exited that for just under 4 times EBITDA.
Hey, really quick, I hope you're enjoying this episode. I just wanted to stop for a second and thank our sponsor, which is me. Nimble Capital Group is my boutique investment firm, where we help passive investors access deals built for cash flow, equity growth, and powerful tax benefits. And if you think you've ever wanted to learn how to raise capital and become a GP yourself, I coach a select group of students each month, most of whom will raise over $500,000 within their first 60 days. So check the show notes in the description below to book a call. I'll see you there. Okay. So this is something that I find really fascinating, but I don't think we've ever spoken about this on the podcast before. So do you mind giving us an actual quick breakdown as best you can of how business valuation works with EBITDA and what that even means to the layman?
Sure. All right. So let's start with gross sales, right? We took this company up to X gross sales, let's just say $3.5 million of gross sales. Working through your cost of goods and all your expenses bring us down to a gross profit, then down to a net profit. But at the end of the day, EBITDA, earnings before interest, depreciation, et cetera. So that spits out a specific number. And, when we're building a business for sale, right, we're not taking any personal expenses and trying to minimize our add backs of, I ran my personal car through my business that so many people try to do for extra deductions and depreciation. Well, we keep our business profit and loss statements extremely clean. We don't muddy the waters with all these potential add back things that, somebody has to understand why you do that. So our EBITDA is straight line, what we made minus all of our expenses. And then the only thing that we do that adds into there is depreciation that you've taken on existing vehicles, equipment, anything like that. Any interest payments that somebody that doesn't have debt wouldn't have to be taking interest payments on and things like that. And then, so you end up with your EBITDA, let's call it $1 million. And then you multiply that EBITDA payment or the EBITDA amount times anywhere from 1 to 20 plus times, depending on your industry, your profitability, your growth strategy and rate of growth, things like that, and what the market is truly doing. So right now, a single business with one home improvement location and whatnot is getting somewhere between 3 and 5 times EBITDA. And for our business, we thought it would be fair to produce a 4 times EBITDA, so 4 times the 1 to get you to close to that $4 million. When we put the business up, we had 3 cash offers in the first week because of our story and our lineage and what we had built. And we settled about 60 days later.
And this was a cabinetry company, correct? So
actually, custom closets. So it's a manufacturing business because we truly do make the actual closet panels and whatnot, and then we install them as well.
Got it. Now, for the people out there, because buying businesses is such a hot button topic these days. I mean, if you tell somebody you're raising money to go buy real estate, they're like, but if you tell them, I'm raising money to go buy a business, they're like, ooh, what kind of business, right? So what are the sort of key differences, because a lot of people think, I'll just buy a business and, I'll keep everyone on staff and it'll be simple. What are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the things that you need to know when you're taking over an asset? Because buying a business is buying a job. It's not making yourself a landlord, right? So what are some of the key things that if somebody wanted to become a business buyer, right, what do they need to know?
So this is a juicy one. I love it. And I feel a lot of solicitations and phone calls about this, especially from young guys that are just hot out there. They have some money or they have some ability to borrow and they just want to go buy passive income. And it kind of makes me cringe in a way. Pitfalls to look for, well, the owner operator, right? What are they really doing that doesn't read on a job description? The intangibles. Person pulls out a month, 6 months, a year, even 2 years after you've taken over the business, but you're not hands-on. You're trying not to be hands-on. The biggest pitfall is for people who don't want to learn the business, get ingrained, get their hands dirty, and understand the organization and the people in it. So those are absolutely terrifying places that I urge people to really dig in, get to know the person, the people, what happens, who's going to want to leave when that person leaves, or who's going to feel slighted when that person takes a paycheck, takes some of their investment off the table, and everybody finds out about it because it's almost impossible for nobody to find out about it. It's a wonderful way to increase great things in your life, but those are some of the largest pitfalls that I see and have experienced.
Right. I think thanks to the Cody Sanchez's of the world, this is something that a lot of people feel like, I could just do this now. It won't be that hard. It'll be simple. I mean, it's real, right? The great wealth transfer, the whole thing about how many boomers are getting ready to retire, but they have nobody to take over their business and they might just close shop. So it's not that's not real. It's not that that doesn't exist, but to just take over a business with no prior experience is, I think, foolhardy in my opinion, right? So what are, some of the key things that you've taken from your background with sales and marketing, and how are you applying that to all these businesses that you're buying to improve them and improve their operations today?
Wow, loaded. Love it. All right. So, first and foremost, I develop relationships with everybody in my business, or at least the direct tangible people around me. That goes so deep and can speak so many volumes to the rest of the organization who haven't gotten to know you yet. But spending the time, effort, and energy to really get to know those people and care about those people and do what maybe they've been dreaming of, or help them fulfill a vision or be a part of their vision, rather than a chop shop style mentality of treating people like a commodity. That's so harsh to watch. And I see that happen so often, and it usually doesn't end well, but it also doesn't feel good. Yes, you might be buying the name of a business or the assets of a business, but you're not buying people. You might be buying goodwill, but it's up to you to keep that goodwill going. And, being a major disruptor in an already high performing or even mediocre any organization is asking for problems. But if you can have strong communication skills, spend time with people, get to know them, have them get to know you and what your real intentions are, and that you are there to help them and not just cut costs and drive revenue, and be there for the people. Show a great vision. People will follow a vision. And if you can be there to help lead that, you can change the lives of everybody in that organization, for sure.
That's amazing. So being a leader, being somebody who comes in and empowers people and doesn't make their lives harder, and actually finds ways to improve it. And I think everything at the end of the day is relationship based, right? Whether you're raising capital like me, or whether you're coming in and turning organizations around like you do. So I absolutely love that. Now, you've done a bit of real estate. You're about to do some real estate now. Can we get into that a little bit?
Sure. So when I was in South Jersey, primarily focused on flipping single family homes. It was very simple. I didn't have too much experience in the beginning, but eventually I joined a local zoning board, eventually onto a planning board, and started to see commercial development ability and what that really took, and took down a couple of commercial properties, took down a 5-acre parcel, cut it up, actually merged it with a couple other parcels, and then we re-subdivided and played in that way, handled some long-term rentals and shore rentals. But then I moved to Florida about 5 years ago, and I realized I did not know the landscape as well as I thought I did coming in. So I sat on my hands a little bit, except for in the warehouse space. We found some real pockets in Sarasota of light industrial warehousing was going to be shut down, zoned out. And we bought a couple of warehouses. And lo and behold, that zoning did go away. Now they're the last 2 blocks of light warehousing that we own some property in that is now converting over to multifamily and going to be apartment buildings. We have 2 of them on our block that are being built where our one warehouse is. And so that's been a blast to see. And then just last year, I decided it was time to jump into the single family market again, which I really do enjoy. Started picking up a couple properties, and then, with all the scare and tariffs and all the craziness of the last few months that people are hearing, and then with the 2 hurricanes that hit the West Coast of, was it just last year, we started to notice a really big gap in older homes that are waterfront. Many people are tearing them down and then listing them as, plots of land, but a few are being listed as either fully renovated or potential renovation. And the gap between there and new construction elite properties, meaning $7 to $25 million range, is an insane gap. And then a third part to that, we saw another gap of the price of those older single family homes on the water compared to those as little as a quarter mile away, but a significantly different elevation, flood elevation, in a normal neighborhood, so to speak. So when I saw that gap over the last few months, and then saw the fear coming in, the heightened seasons are ending here in South Florida, vacation seasons, a hurricane season only a few months away from starting, tariffs and whatnot potentially increasing building costs, resonated as people are scared. There's more waterfront property on the market in Sarasota than ever before. And I thought, what better way than to see if there's a deal out there? And I'll tell you, 3 days into looking at the numbers, we put one offer in, we negotiated heavy, and within 24 hours, we officially under contract for a 30-day settlement for a property that is, yes, 50 years old, but for all intents and purposes, 10 years old, really well remodeled, crazy addition. It's a wonderful home that could stand the test of time, I think, for another 30 years. But we went after it for land value. I was willing to pay a 10% premium above land value because I want to use the property for something very specific over the next 2 to 3 years before we look at potentially tearing it down. So that's our current acquisition.
There's so many nuggets of gold in what you just said. Not knowing really the market you're in and choosing to join a zoning board, right? I mean, there's so much that you did to uncover this really unique opportunity that nobody else is doing. They're all running the other way. They're all scared. And you've actually managed to uncover something when everybody else is looking left, you're going right. So I hope our listeners take something away from it in that regard.
If I could, before you go, one thing I wanted to add about this property, I went after this with a very specific strategy in mind. If you have some real estate investors in here, this is a fun one and it's always done me well. Exclusivity. It takes a certain dollar amount, but it doesn't have to be top of the market dollar amount. So what I realized that by taking this property down, it was one of the lowest 3 priced waterfront single family homes that was not new construction that's on the market. The minute I took it off the market, other 2 came off the market. One, the owner decided they saw what we were doing and decided to keep it and renovate. Other one, I can't say what happened. But now I'm immediately more than $1.5 million under the next highest old single family home on the water. So exclusivity and removing bottom tier of something that's on the market, what is the next tier? Very, very rarely do you bring a whole stack down with you. Whereas if you remove the other things, you can climb up to that next number. And that's it. That's immediately what happened. I've already been offered more than 10%, but I've not even paid for it yet.
Well, you haven't even closed yet. And you've already been offered 10% more. Wow. Okay. So truly a nugget of knowledge there in finding the things that other people are, maybe too lazy to figure out for themselves or too scared to do. So I hope our listenership does go and embrace that mentality. Now, near the end of every episode, I do like to ask our guests, because you are somebody who, I know about the cars, I know about the watches. We haven't even touched on that, right? That's 2 other businesses. Then there's the call center business. That's the 3rd one, right? We've pretty much only been talking about your home services stuff and some real estate stuff. So that's at least 5 different avenues that I'm aware of currently. How do you maintain sanity and health? What are you doing right now to keep this all straight on a daily basis and make sure that, everything that's going on with here doesn't get confused with everything that's going on over there? What are you doing?
All right. Smoking gun time. I truly have embraced, and thanks to my wife on this too, but we have truly embraced the ideology that I don't have a delineating factor of work and life. I love my companies. I love my people. I love what I do. I get to do every day. If that means that throughout Monday through Friday or Saturday sometimes or whatever it is, I have to be on my phone more than my 8-hour day or 18-hour day or whatever it is, that's not frustrating to us. That is fascinating. That is amazing that I get to do it rather than I got to be done at 5 o'clock. I got to sit down for the night and I'm done and I put my attention elsewhere. And ideology has me in so many ways. I know that's a little obscure. Let's go to the nuts and bolts of it. Taking care of yourself. The health and wellness part is incredible. I was a sickly child, truly a sickly child. And I had to grow out of that through lots of pain and trials and tribulations and whatnot. And, I do know that what some of that can really feel like, and I never want to feel that way again. So it's working out a little bit every day. It doesn't have to be a hardcore 3-hour workout, but it's working out a little bit every day. Eating well. We don't live on processed foods. I don't care how much time I don't have. I'd rather go grab something healthy just to get fuel into my body that's good for me, that I can process and not create fog brain and stimulants and all those things. And that's just so damn important in our lives. It doesn't take more money. It takes a little bit more thought, a little bit more time, but it doesn't always take more money. And we work really hard at making sure that we keep those things clean and in the house, are quick, simple, easy, unprocessed food products that we can consume, and try to keep it, just as natural as possible. I'm not a crash dieter. I'm not a one specific type where I got to eat all meat or I can't eat any meat, or I don't follow or subscribe to any of that. I just try to live well, right? My fruits and vegetables, eat my carbohydrates, eat my proteins. If I'm really running thin, I'll quick make a protein shake. Do my best to keep most of it not processed and whole foods that are just good. And, I do take my average day. right? It's typically in front of my screen or on the phone or in the field. And that's typically 7 a.m. And I'm usually not shutting down until 11 p.m. But I make sure I take my time to stop and eat, stop and think, and work out. And I always take an hour to have dinner with my wife, which is a wonderful time, but then she goes to bed and I go back to it. I do have a software company. We've built and launched 2 different software programs, but most of my teams are in the Philippines, which is 12 hours different from us. So my second day, those teams don't start till 6 or 8 p.m. at night Eastern time. So I look at this in a fluid manner, right? I have multiple days throughout my day. And I love that. I've grown to really enjoy being able to compartmentalize that.
Wow. So in order to operate at this super high level, what you put into your body and how you structure your day really does make a difference, right? You can't just wing it, without a plan and think I'm going to keep operating at a super high level all the time. It's just not going to work, right? You have to have a plan and you have to be really intentional. And those are very long days. And admittedly, you've told me before, you're pretty much on the phone every single hour of the day, more or less, right? Just connecting and making things happen. So I really, really appreciate everything that you've told me. If our guests and our listeners, if they want to hear more about you, if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
I think I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook, Instagram. You can always reach out to me on my cell phone. On my phone, I literally, even to this day on my software companies, our signature emails, it includes my cell phone number. I do not hide my number. I do not layer myself through assistants and VAs or EAs or anything like that. And I'm really happy that I get to do that. So I just put it out there. It's 609-457-6727. Find me on Facebook or right there.
Guy, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Deal. I hope you got some valuable insights that you can apply to your own investing journey. Now, if you've enjoyed this conversation, do me a favor, hit that follow button, leave a review, and share this episode with somebody who you think could benefit from it. It really helps the show grow and bring on even more incredible guests. If you want to go deeper, make sure to follow me on your socials. You can find the links in the show notes in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Until then, keep going beyond the deal.